Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Wynna Wong. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Non-residents will be allowed to fly to Hong Kong from next month as the city's new COVID cases fall below 600. Form 6 students return to school to sit for their university entrance exam. And Ukraine says Russian military gains will only be temporary. Tourists are set to return to Hong Kong after the government announced that non-residents will be allowed to enter the city from May 1st. The statement came as Hong Kong's daily COVID caseload dipped below 600 today for the first time since early February. After an uncertain few days, Hong Kong's daily COVID tally showed further signs of easing today, dropping below the 600 mark for the first time in more than 10 weeks. Of the 574 new cases, 11 were imported. 7 were discovered from airport screenings. 4 arrived from Sydney on Cathay Pacific flight CX-100. 4 others tested positive during hotel quarantine. 1 foreign domestic helper was found infected on her 12th day test after arriving from Indonesia on April 8th. But health authorities say the 38-year-old showed a low viral load and did not pass the virus onto her employer's family. Of the 160,000 or so students who attended class today, 1 student tested positive this morning. As for COVID deaths, 14 people died in the past 24 hours. All were 75 years old or above. Meanwhile, the government announced earlier this evening that it would further relax travel measures for the city. Starting on May 1st, vaccinated non-residents will be allowed to enter Hong Kong again, but they will have to undergo hotel quarantine. They will have to be tested before boarding and upon arrival. Relaxations have also been made to the circuit breaker flight ban mechanism. Currently, if an incoming plane is found to have 3 or more passengers infected at Chek Lap Kok, that route is banned for 7 days. But from May 1st, that threshold has been raised to 5 passengers, or 5% of the total number of passengers, whichever is higher. The duration of the ban has also been shortened to 5 days. The Reserva Iberica restaurant in Wan Chai has been fined $6,000 for breaching COVID regulations. The eatery's operator, Wynna Project Limited, had earlier pleaded guilty at Eastern Magistracy. It was accused of failing to post its floor plans as a Type D restaurant and notices for compliance with hourly air change requirements. Deputy Magistrate Gary Chu slammed the restaurant for neglecting its responsibilities at a time when Omicron cases were surging in the city. In January, local deputy to China's legislature Whitman Hung hosted a birthday party at the restaurant, attended by nearly 200 guests, including 14 senior government officials. One of them, former Home Affairs Chief Casper Choi, was forced to resign. Tens of thousands of Form 6 students have returned to school for their university entrance exam, which began today. Candidates had to test themselves for COVID, and at least 21 are taking their exams in the Penny's Bay Quarantine Center. Joanna Ho reports.
While most secondary students have taken lessons online during the pandemic, 6 formers were the first to return to campus after social distancing curbs were relaxed yesterday. But they were not back for face-to-face lessons. Instead, they were sitting for the Diploma of Secondary Education exam, which could pave their way to a place in university. Apart from the pressure, the 50,000 candidates this year have to self-test for COVID and fill a health declaration form. This student wore 2 masks and a face shield to avoid infection. She said the self-testing procedure caused her slight inconvenience this morning. This student woke up at 5:30 a.m., saying he wanted to be in school early to prepare himself mentally. Without in-person teaching, he faced extra stress as he had to be self-disciplined to revise his lessons. The principal of CMA Secondary School in HKIBC said one student was admitted to hospital last night after showing COVID symptoms and couldn't make it to the exam this morning. The candidates will be sent to the designated exam center in Penny's Bay after recovery to take the remaining papers. Taxi Dealers and Owners Association Vice President Sonia Chang said the fleet took one infected student and two under a compulsory quarantine order to Penny's Bay this morning. Chang said the fleet's reservation hotline is running smoothly and will receive calls until 10 p.m. daily. The exam ends on May 14th, and candidates will know their results 2 months later. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Funeral parlors say they are still struggling to deal with COVID deaths from the fifth wave, with more than 1,000 bodies remaining unclaimed. Funeral Business Association Chairman Kwok Hoi-pong said a number of bodies being kept in temporary cold storage facilities set up by the government are showing signs of decomposition. He explained that the containers are not immune to weather conditions, especially when they are exposed to sun and rain. Kwok said authorities should set up tents over the containers to minimize the effects. Special arrangements will be in place during the chief executive election on May 8th to minimize the risk of COVID infection. The chairman of the Electoral Affairs Commission, Barnabas Fung, said polling will be extended by half an hour to 11:30 a.m. This will help spread the flow of voters among the approximately 1,500 members of the election committee. At least 70 ballot-issuing desks will be open at the Convention and Exhibition Center. There will be 100 separate booths, so electors will be kept at a distance from each other. Fung added that the government is making other arrangements for election committee who may be in quarantine. Overseas now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed Russia's territorial gains in the east of his country as only temporary. Moscow, meanwhile, claimed it has captured the key port city of Mariupol. Sarah Wong reports.
After suffering military setbacks in his war against Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin declared that the strategic southern port city of Mariupol is now under the control of his forces. But while congratulating the troops, he told them not to attack an industrial zone where Ukrainian soldiers are holding out. Instead, he ordered the blockade of a steel plant that is sheltering hundreds of soldiers and civilians in the area. Ukraine denied losing Mariupol, but admitted that most of the city was taken by Russian forces. The mayor claimed around 100,000 people remained stranded and accused Russia of blocking evacuation efforts. A senior Ukrainian official believed Moscow wanted to move some of its troops in Mariupol to join the operation in eastern Ukraine. Russian forces have captured dozens of villages in the separatist-held Donetsk region and continued bombarding Kharkiv in the northeast. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky assured his compatriots that Moscow's gains are only temporary and said the Russians will soon be forced back across the border. Sarah Wong, HKIBC.
Fresh clashes between Israeli police and the Palestinians have erupted at a religious compound in Jerusalem. Officers stormed the holy site after Palestinian youngsters allegedly hurled stones at a police cordon. The Palestinians, who are marking the holy month of Ramadan, were accused of trying to stop Jewish worshippers from going to the site, which is sacred to Muslims and Jews. Visits to the shrine rose during the Jewish Passover holiday. At least 150 Palestinians and 3 Israeli officers have been injured in confrontations in the past week. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has offered rare praise for his outgoing South Korean counterpart, Moon Jae-in. They exchanged letters expressing the hopes of better relations, less than 3 weeks before a hardliner becomes South Korea's new president. Sarah Wong again.
One of the top priorities of South Korea's outgoing president Moon Jae-in has been to improve ties with his northern neighbor. He was in Panmunjom in 2018 when Kim Jong-un became the first North Korean leader to cross into South Korean territory since 1953. The mild-mannered Moon also facilitated nuclear negotiations between the North and the United States. As he neared the end of his 5-year term, Moon wrote a personal letter to Kim, calling for the two Koreas to work towards reunification. He also hoped that Pyongyang and Washington will resume their stalled talks. In response, Kim praised Moon for his pains and effort to improve ties, which the North Korean leader said could develop if both nations make tireless efforts with hope. The exchange of letters was described by North Korean state media as an expression of deep trust between the leaders. Observers fear that inter-Korean relations could deteriorate after former prosecutor Yoon Suk-yeong is installed as president in Seoul on May 10th. Yoon has vowed to take a harder line towards Pyongyang and advocated a preemptive strike against the North if necessary. In response to the letters, the president-elect's transition team called for peace and prosperity through denuclearization. Sarah Wong, HKIBC.
There were at least 4 bidders when tenders closed today for the first site on which flats must meet the minimum unit size. The residential site at the Tai Lam section of Castle Peak Road in Tuen Mun covers over 360,000 square feet and can provide a total gross floor area after construction of up to 1.3 million square feet. But each of the estimated 2,000 flats to be built must be at least 280 square feet. The plot is expected to fetch between $7.2 billion and $9 billion, with a price per square foot ranging from $5,500 to $7,000. The catering industry has seen a boom in business a day after social distancing measures were relaxed. But because of severe unemployment during the 5th COVID wave, many catering workers were forced to seek jobs elsewhere.
We see that the unemployment rate of the catering industry in the past month has been very high, and our catering sector is one of the industry that was being hurt the most. Our unemployment rate has risen up to 11% in March. We need more business. We need more relieving of the restrictive measures to help our business. There's also one concern in the industry is that in the past year, some frontline people have already changed their job. They don't want to stay in the catering industry.
Wong called for more lifting of the restrictive measures, including allowing banquets to be held to help with the sector's recovery, adding that eateries now have to pay more to attract workforce, given the industry fluctuations over the past month. You can watch the full interview on All About Money on Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. Let's take a look at the markets now. The Hang Seng Index closed down 43 points. Top 10 active stocks, Tencent was down $7.40, Meituan up $3.60. CCB down 3 cents, CM Bank up $1.25. In foreign exchange rates, the euro is 8.48, British pound 10.11. In foreign markets, the UK FTSE is down 59 points. Finally, the weather. There will be sunny periods tomorrow with 1 or 2 showers. Temperatures will range between 24 and 29 degrees. Sunday will be sunny with coastal mist in the morning, while Monday will have a few showers. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. And that's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more at 11. I'm Wynna Wong. Good night.